Hello and welcome to Affinity. In this last on this series of Technicolor, we've gone from the System 1 original additive system to System 2 and 3, which use the same basic principle of a subtractive system but just using the red and green channels. Then in 1932 they came up with the 3-strip system, which was basically Technicolor. We're not going to go and start chopping off the channels and things with this because it's basically color. And we're going to look a little bit more at what you can do to create that colour effect. One of the early films, 1939, was The Wizard of Oz. One of the things you can immediately see in this is that there's lots of well saturated colours, which is perhaps unsurprising because if you're going from black and white to colour, you're going to go, hey, here's lots of colour. Anyway, so if we take a picture here, why don't we just say, well, if we want lots of colour, just go to HSL, say, and turn up saturation. And yes, you get the effect, but you get some things like, hey, there's a bit much red in here and so on. But that's okay, because you can actually go to each of these here and turn them up individually. So I go to red and then turn up that to whatever I like. Go to the yellow, turn up that, let's brighten up this here. Go to greens, there's a bit of green down here, so we turn that one up. You can see if you go too far it just goes nuts, so you can only go so far. Cyans and so on through there. That's okay, so that's one method. There is a slightly quicker method, which is if we reset that, just simply go back to the original thing of just go on all of them at once. So you can turn everything up, but there's too much red in the faces now. So we just go to the red one and turn that down. And so that's a fairly quick way of doing that. So then you can get on to other things which are used to make it a little bit more of an old thing. So let's whiz through some of those. We'll quickly go to a bit of blur, so we can turn that up. Not too much, you don't want to use everything to be blurred, but just a bit, and do click on the preserve alpha to stop the outside edge going funny. Bit of noise, so we can go to the add noise filter, we can turn that one up. Again, just not too much, but just a little bit to indicate some film grain. See, that's not very much, but it's enough. Then also an interesting thing to do is actually if you add curves, and with that, because the light is shining through a film, it's not going to be completely black. So what you get is off black, and to reduce the black, you just take this one and turn this off here, and it goes just a little bit grey. But then what they can do to compensate for that is to make sure there are more blacks or darks lower down. So if you effectively pull this one down, but then you want to keep the lights light, so you bring those back up onto the curve like that. And see, that makes just a little bit of difference there. You can pull this down to getting a little bit too far, but you can adjust that as you like. And finally, just put in a vignette, because you get that effect appearing. Just a very gentle one. So turn down the exposure to see where you are. Change the shape to make it about right. Just the hardness a bit so it's fairly soft. Then scale it out a bit, and then turn the exposure back down so you're only getting a little bit of effect. And anyway, there you go. That's a big difference then, going from the original to a lot more Technicolor film effect. One more thing, and a different thing that you can do, is if we go to a picture like this, which is a kind of, it's an outdoor scene, but it's a bit dull. And if you start using the HSL method, you tend to find it's not perfect. So we can look at another way of doing it, which is more detail, which is if you go to the channel mixer, okay, which can be a bit scary, but it's actually really useful. So what we can do with this is, typical thing is just simply to wind up the primary colours, turn up the red, but then to get it to the whites back to white, you're going to turn down these two to a factor minus 50. So everything adds up to 100. That's the rule, golden rule. Everything adds up to 100. And you can do the same with the greens. And so turn the greens up, then minus 50 there, and minus 50 there. And the blues. And turn that up, and minus 50, and minus 50. So you've already got it a bit saturated there, but then you start noticing things going, well, actually the yellows here are a bit on the heavy side, so let's turn down this blue effect, which affects yellow, of course, and we'll bring that down here to, say, around about 150, which means to balance it off, these two is now going to be minus 25. Yeah, that's a bit more realistic there. But also if we look at the building over here, this should be a white or grey here, but there's got a bit of a colour tint on it. So if we bring the colour picker over here and look at the colours there, you can see red and blue are fairly close, but green is a bit too high. So you want to turn down the greens. So we go to green channel, and then let's say let the reds to do the pulling down here. So we pull down the red, so where there is red, turn down the green. We just turn down that there until it looks a bit more on the right white scale. So let's have a look at that. So, you know, green's still a little bit higher, so bring that down a little bit more. Bring that down again there. There you go, the greens are around the same range there. So Control 0 to check everything else is okay. And there you go, that's a lot better, not just with one control going from there to there. Anyway, that's it, and thank you very much for watching.